Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Spring 24 Pipeline Summit. My name is Craig Swensert. I'm the founder and CEO of Qualified. And today we have a very special guest. It's somebody I've known for more than 15 years. I've worked with this person when they were running platform marketing at Salesforce. You then left to become the CMO of Amazon Web Services, followed up by becoming the CMO of Oracle. And now you're at the helm. You're the CMO of Salesforce, and you just joined Qualified's board of directors. Ariel, welcome to Pipeline Summit.
Thank you, Craig. Happy to be here.
So it's really interesting. When you took the role as CMO of Salesforce last year, you were telling me that in your first one-on-one with your CEO, he said, Ariel, your top two priorities are positioning the company and pipeline. We need 3X coverage, and we don't have it. And the funny thing is, pipeline in our targets is like the great equalizer, because when times are tough, our targets don't change, but we have fewer resources and it's harder out there. And when times are great and you're kicking butt like you guys are, you're now rewarded with more AEs and higher pipeline targets. So now that we're fully into 2024, is pipeline still your top priority, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, it's absolutely still my top priority. I mean, what I find is that when companies are doing really well, you sort of lose the muscle of managing pipeline generation because it just sort of comes in. And then you have to rediscover it again. So we always go through, in my career, I've always sort of gone through that where the company loses focus on it. But right now, it's more important than ever. I'd say it's a little more focused now as I've been here for about 7-8 months, and really going after the programs that are supposed to be generating pipeline but aren't enough, and then the areas of the world where we may be underinvested and need to put a little more focus in to give the salespeople what they need.
Well, you've got a huge scope relative to most CMOs. You're a multi-product company. You're a global organization, and I can't imagine the complexity. If you could kind of distill it down for our audience here today, what are kind of like the top 3 initiatives, big programs that you think are really working to drive pipe right now?
Okay. Well, so I'd say, first of all, like the context of Salesforce is a lot of the pipeline we're trying to generate is to inspire our existing customer base to use more of our product line. And so that involves getting in front of the right people with an educational message on why they should care about our products, who's used them before, what the benefits are, how to get started. So a lot of these activities that work are around doing that in an efficient, effective, and scalable manner. So doing, inviting people to come to our executive briefing center, even though that may sound like kind of an old school thing to do, but it's become even easier now because you can get, if you think about before the pandemic, you couldn't get senior executives at big companies to go do Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Now it's normal. So we do them in person, do them online. Those are great. And then sort of the opposite of that would be to do account-based marketing programs where we go around a certain topic, like let's say our data cloud product. We're going to go do a packaged up pitch of exactly what we know works with a workshop. We can go and say, hey, bring all of your people who are interested in this area, and we'll come in and we'll do a quarter, half-day session and then measure it programmatically. And so it's really about, we'll bring the people to us, or we'll go to them, or do the same thing digitally as well.
Okay, so executive briefings, those have always worked, by the way. How you guys are doing them virtually. You're putting together these account-based marketing programs. I think that's really good advice. Those are things that I think we would all be able to do ourselves. Most of the folks in the audience and CMOs would think, yeah, I could actually do that. Salesforce is like operating at a whole different level. And so, for example, for Formula One, you guys sponsor Formula One, the race in November. You had a big Salesforce brand display on the Sphere in Las Vegas. And then, of course, you've got commercials on TV with Matthew McConaughey talking about trust and AI. As part of a team that executes those huge brand plays, how do you think about investments in those programs as they relate to pipeline generation?
Okay. Well, I'll start by telling you what I don't believe in. I think people often try and use math for things that they can't actually measure the level of granularity they want. And they delude themselves into thinking they're data-driven. And sort of a long wind-up to say that I'm not a fan of the sort of full funnel marketing planning of going from brand all the way down to demand and performance, and have sort of a math chain of formulas that tell you exactly what to spend and optimize. It may work for a consumer products company or something that's direct buy online. But for a B2B business, what I found is that you got to manage these things separately. And for brand, what I tend to use is to pick a percentage of the marketing budget that you feel comfortable that you can then relate to how much reach you're going to get. So if you want to hit certain markets for a certain number of times, I usually get the team to normalize on like how much does it cost per city, per campaign to do a normalized set of tactics, and spend that amount I'm comfortable on, and then measure it on efficiency. How efficient are we getting to all those people? And then on the demand side, I try and just run that with as much money as makes sense to put it in. So I'm a big fan of taking performance marketing out of the discretionary planning marketing budget and working with finance on gate-driven things like we're going to buy at X% of customer lifetime value, and sort of segment it so you're putting just the, as much money as makes sense, but no more than that, and operating with science on those things.
Okay, it's really interesting. Salesforce over the years has experimented in so many ways. Obviously, you kind of just alluded to a couple of those campaigns, but you're back in the seat at Salesforce, and you spent 10 years at other companies. So you have actually, I think, a really unique luxury of seeing how a high-performance marketing organization was operating maybe in the earlier days, and now you see it again. And my question is, how has that changed over time? Are there certain things that are like tried and true that are just, they were working 10 years ago, they're still working today? And are there things that are incredibly different given either the market or the timing or the scale of your organization?
Yeah, I mean, it's just surprising how much is the same. I mean, it kind of goes back, I like to sort of just dumb things down to human behaviors you're trying to influence. So you're trying to get people who are busy to pay attention to something and understand why they might need it enough so they can try it out. And getting people to, if you go back 15 years ago when we were at Salesforce together, it's like someone goes to Google, they need to be able to find their way to your website. You need to educate them in a quick way, and then find a way to get them, to your salespeople or to self-service business to get them to sign up. That has not changed. Some of the tools have changed, obviously with what you guys are doing, making it a lot easier. But the general mechanics of what you're trying to optimize, I found have changed less than what I would have predicted they would at the time.
Interesting. Well, let's dive into that a little bit more. Let's talk about events, because obviously live events are back, but virtual events, I think, are here to stay. And Salesforce has always been at the forefront of events, starting with a huge customer conference, Dreamforce, a world city tour, developer events, specific events for, CIOs or specific job functions. Are you guys thinking about events differently? It used to be everything in person, and then everything was streamed online. But how are you thinking about the mix of events now?
I think the mix is something we're thinking about more. Like, I think a lot of companies did this where they went all on virtual events, and it was amazing that you were able to get to all these people. And then when things opened up, it's like, well, maybe we don't need to do the virtual events anymore, and we'll go big on in person. We're trying to get the right mix, because obviously the cost per attendee I like to look at. One of the things I like to do that I recommend is to develop a apples to apples metric between virtual and physical events. If you think about cost per minute of engagement, and you got to swag, take a rough swag of it for the in-person events, but you can get pretty close, especially if you do RFID badges. But then you can look at the ROI of the different programs in an apples to apples way. And it's just about finding the right mix. So I think both are super important.
Yeah, there's no doubt you can really transform somebody and help them see the world in a new way with a physical event. But just like here we are at Pipeline Summit, you can reach an order of magnitude more people who can just tune in online from their desk.
Do it multiple times. So like one of the problems with the big physical event is it kind of assumes that that person is in that city and free on that day.
Right.
Especially if you're kind of going around the world. So it's almost better to be able to do the same kind of programming multiple times throughout the year to the same time zone.
Well, let's pivot a little bit and talk about something that is incredibly important to everyone this year. And of course, that is AI. Last year, the AI tsunami really hit us with ChatGPT. You guys have been building Einstein for almost 10 years, actually, which is pretty crazy. But now everyone's mindset has shifted. All of a sudden, it's real, right? I can get to my office in the morning in San Francisco in a self-driving car. That's crazy. And if AI can drive me to work, I show up every day going, wow, what can AI do for my business? So this is a question I've really been pondering, and I want to throw it over to you. We should really be asking ourselves as CMOs, what does generating pipeline look like in a world where everything's automated and AI is doing the work? That's really like the dream. What does that world look like? And I think we're all here today going like, I don't know. What does it look like? So give us your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's sort of the long term and the short term and the fullness of time. I mean, we should expect to have digital agents as salespeople, as BDRs, as LDRs, because you look at what this generative AI it's language based, and that's what a lot of selling is. It's talking to someone, getting them interested, answering their questions. But I think we're a long ways off from fully automated selling. I mean, as much as many of us would like to change our salespeople over for robots, I think it's not happening in the next few years. In the next few years, though, it's incredibly exciting what AI can do to make your existing salespeople, your existing LDRs more effective. So a lot of the work that we're doing is based on the idea of having a co-pilot that augments the capabilities of your salespeople so they can be more productive, so they can answer questions more intelligently. Imagine plugging in your 10,000 product manuals into your AI system so the questions can get fed to your LDRs to make the customer have a better experience and be more likely to be convinced. Having the salespeople's capabilities scored by the AI. As a product marketer, you always say, well, does this message work or that message work? Or are the salespeople actually delivering our messaging with, we have our Einstein conversation insights. Some people use Gong, but it's more and more conversations are being recorded. But with generative AI, you can actually just go ask an LLM when customers give this objection, what are the top 5 ways our salespeople are handling them? Are those the ones you want? Are they working, correlating them to close rates? So there's just so much we can do now without having to think about, can the AI do it by itself? It's sort of almost irrelevant. That probably will come in the future, but it's sort of not really relevant for our day-to-day job right now.
Yeah, marketers are going to be on this journey of, we've been talking about in our industry, and it's certainly in the media the last couple of weeks, the AI worker. I might have an AI developer, ride shotgun with me if I code, or I might have an AI lawyer ride shotgun with me if I'm in the legal profession. But in our world, it's like I might have an AI SDR, or you guys call them LDRs, right? An AI SDR ride shotgun with me while I'm answering questions and qualifying leads. I might have an AI BDR helping me source contacts and personalize messages and prospect for me. I might have an AI RevOps person actually doing analysis of my campaign attribution. And so this is the year. Do you see it like actually in practice, these kind of co-pilots, as you say? Do you see it actually in practice? Is every CMO this year going to buy technology that's going to deliver this co-pilot function?
I think they should. I mean, at Salesforce, we think it's incredibly complementary to the existing use of our systems. So if you think about like being able to respond to the customer automatically after you talk to them on the phone, be able to send a follow-up email, in order for it to be good, it needs to have listened to the conversation and it needs to be grounded in the customer's data. If you want to, let's say, recommend an event or recommend 3 things for them to read, you want to understand what they've bought before, what they've done before, where they've been on your website. And you need to be able to ground that in your customer data, and customers already trust us with that data. So it kind of puts us in a good position. So we're seeing a lot of success with our Copilot product at making salespeople, like making their jobs easier. And then at the same time, increasing the probability that they're going to have effective communications.
And I think, to our audience, I think the AI is going to be there this year to ride shotgun with everybody in your organization to help them be better at their profession, whether it's an SDR or a BDR or a content marketing manager or an advertising manager or a RevOps person, what have you. It's going to be a really exciting year. So let's talk a little bit about relationships, because the most important relationship for a CMO is usually the relationship they have with their CRO. And in your organization, as I mentioned before, you've got tons of products, you've got tons of geos, you've got competing priorities. How do you stay aligned with your CRO?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I'm lucky to have 2 things going that either one of them on their own, I think would have been effective. I'd say, first of all, the trend we see in a lot of companies is we have a COO that is managing both sales and marketing. And so the whole sales infrastructure and the whole marketing infrastructure, they kind of are forced organizationally to figure out how to work together. It's very easy to say like, oh, the org structure doesn't matter, we'll all get along, but org structures really do matter. So that helps. But also, I think it just so happens that myself and Miguel, who run sales, kind of have a similar personality of really being very direct and focusing on what's not working and trying to fix it and optimizing, not kind of getting emotionally attached to things that aren't working or working, just fixing problems. So having that alignment of how you work also tends to be important. But it is critical, because it doesn't matter how smart your programs are. If you're not aligned with the sales leader, it's just not going to work.
You mentioned Miguel, he's your CRO. How often do you and Miguel connect, whether it's like a Zoom call or whether it's just like on Slack? How often are you guys communicating typically?
8-10 times a week.
All the time. All the time. Even at an organization like yours.
Oh yeah.
You have had a long career as a marketer. You've seen it all. You've executed programs in so many different roles within marketing, and you see the future. And I think Salesforce is great because it's one of those companies that always has a perspective on the future. What advice do you have for CMOs this year? It could be strategic or it could be tactical.
My advice is really focus. I think we're all in a world where we're being asked to do 10 times as many things as we have enough resources to do, and we have that list in our head of things we wish we could do. And so any success in eliminating the things that don't really matter is a huge victory.
Thanks so much, Ariel. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank Ariel Kelman for being with us today at Pipeline Summit. Ariel, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Have a good one.